Good morning, everyone. Welcome to NorthStar Community. So glad to be here again and appreciate all of you joining us. And so today we're going to talk about paradigms. And so I will warn you, I changed my mind in the last minute to do this, so hang with me here. So so paradigms is kind of this thing about, I'll read the definition here. A theory or a group of ideas about how something should be done, made, or thought about. So Joel Barker came out with this awesome video back in the late 80s and early 90s on paradigms. He made his living with this thing. And it's just fascinating how you see things. And so his great example, he had several examples, but the one that I think is fascinating was he was talking about prior to I think it was probably 1980, Switzerland was the place that made watches. They made 95% of the watches in the world. Well, there was this expo, and this Japanese company called Seiko, may have heard of them, have this battery-driven electronic watch that actually was more accurate than the one with all the intricate pieces and things that the Swiss made. And of course the Swiss went, oh, that's nothing, that's never going to take off, nobody cares about that. 10 years later, Japan had 95% of the watch profits in watch manufacturing. So that's an example of paradigms where we see things how they should be done, how they should be made, how we should think about things, and that's how we live our lives around that paradigm. And what happens is a lot of times is paradigms switch on us, and of course technology is just full of this. I don't know about you, but when I was working, I used to work for Media One, which is now Comcast. That's a paradigm shift in itself. But when I worked for them, I remember this was back some time ago, and we were talking about how how powerful DVDs were. I can't really remember the last time I had a DVD in my hand. I just don't, it used to be a big thing. And I actually knew someone who knew the president of Blockbuster, who created Blockbuster. And, think about that. I imagine a lot of us can remember going to the video store, and now that's like not even thought about. Or how about how many of you have rushed out and found a phone booth somewhere and made a phone call in a phone booth lately? So you get the point. Things change and all those kind of things. And those are some kind of easy examples for paradigms. But think about, for us, here's some paradigms I have about recovery. And I always say this to you, if you're watching me right now, my paradigm is you're in some form of recovery. I don't know why you'd be here if you aren't. My second paradigm is, and I've had a couple people argue with me, but on the whole, I think I'm pretty much been right on this, is I've never met an addict either who hasn't had trauma and abandonment in their life. I've never met one. So now you could argue that and say, well, everybody's had trauma and abandonment. But when I say trauma and abandonment, I mean with a capital T and a capital A. I mean, there's a difference. So that's how my paradigm, that's how I work with recovery. And so that changes how I see the world, because it would be easy, because trust me, and for you that are family of someone who's addicted, it's the most maddening, heartbreaking, mind-numbing. I mean, we could go on and on with what it's like to have a loved one who's addicted. The lying, the stealing, the just complete self-centeredness of it all. And for you that are that person, you know what I'm talking about. But the beauty is when you can have a paradigm of, well, let me back up. So then another paradigm I have is I'm a Christian, right? So my paradigm is that there is a God that loves us. He sent his son, Jesus, here to die for me and for you and for everyone else. And so I see God as love. Now, so it's been kind of an interesting journey for me. We've had a couple people in NorthStar recently who have no clue. Like someone the other day in the meeting talked about a burning bush moment. Of course, we all knew what they meant, talking about Moses and God. And I looked over and I saw the person was sitting there like, and I went, you don't even know what that means, do you? And they're like, I don't know. What's that mean? What's burning bush mean, right? So our paradigm is, we all know what burning bush is. We know that God did this and Moses did this, and his point was blah, blah, blah. So it's been interesting to try to describe what does it mean, my paradigm, that God is love. God is in my life. He's in your life. God created the earth. God created the universe. That's my paradigm. But this person, that's not their paradigm. And so it's been a challenge to go, well, God loves you. You just need to understand that, right? Well, it's not so easy. And then of course, we as Christians, we can really mess this up. So let me talk about, just to make this even more difficult, let me talk about that wonderful book of Job for a moment. I don't know about the rest of you, but Job is one of the more confusing books I've ever read. The premise is just kind of hard to understand sometimes. So what I find is, I think this is important, and I find it interesting, is that Job may be the oldest book in the Bible. There's some thought that it is, that it may be the first book. So for some reason that gives it more credibility to me. I'm not quite sure why, but it does. But let's do this picture here. So you're laying in a hospital bed and you're covered with very, very painful sores. I've lost my entire family. I have lost what I did for a living, and I've had everything burned down, destroyed. Everything's been taken from me by this person who is standing beside me in the hospital bed. Now, I don't know about you, but if that were me, I don't know how well I'd be taking that. I would be pretty angry. I'd be pretty upset. I'd be all sorts of things toward this person, right? And so here I am sitting here watching this person, and then how do I respond to them? What do I say to them? How do I act towards them? All those things, right? Well, that's kind of what the book of Job's about in many ways. And I love it when God is sarcastic. It just makes me laugh when he is this way. And he's pretty much this in Job at times. And Job has tried to put reason and order to what's happened to him. And, of course, his friends have tried to do all these things. They've told him that obviously he did something wrong and all these things and blah, blah, blah. And the point is that these things happened. And really, I think if you look at the book of Job, what you really narrow it down to is that God's looking for us to trust him. And that's tough, particularly with us in recovery, because let's be honest, for us that are addicted, and again, our addictions are substances, compulsive behaviors, people. When we're addicted, we are out there destroying our lives. I mean, we are destroying our lives, we're destroying loved ones' lives. We are doing all those things. And so the problem is there's consequences for that. And so I don't believe God strikes us down. I don't believe God punishes us for things. But I do believe there's consequences to things that we do. God has set up the earth in such a manner that if I step off a cliff, there's not going to be consequences there because of gravity. I don't think God told me to go do it, right? So Job kind of tries to push back on God a little bit, and here's what God says to him. Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? So he's talking to Job now. Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footing set, and who laid its cornerstone? While the morning stars sang together, and all the angels shouted for joy. Who shut up the sea behind doors when it burst forth from the womb? Have you journeyed to the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been shown to you? Have you seen the gates of the deepest darkness? Have you comprehended the vast expanses of the earth? Tell me if you know all this. What is the way of the abode of light, and where does darkness reside? Can you take them to their places? Do you know the paths to their dwellings? Surely you know, for you were already born, Job. You know so much. You have lived so many years. So what God was saying to Job, I think, was, all right, look, I created the earth. I created the universe. I created everything you see, know, touch, feel. So you need to trust me on that creation, which also means you need to trust me spiritually. You need to trust me, and I'll use addiction. We talk about addiction being a physiological, emotional, spiritual. You need to also trust me emotionally or psychologically, whatever word you want to use. I'm in charge. You can trust me. You need to figure out a way through all your pain and all your misery to find a way to trust me. And so my paradigm is that God is love. God is here for us. God does not keep score. God does not punish us. All those things. That's my paradigm. But for many of us out here, we don't know. We've had so much heartache, so much hurt, so many bad things happen to us. How do we do this? So I always tell people, we were talking about this on Friday night again. I was telling people, I always think we can kind of take Jesus and all the great things he said. His parables are awesome. I love all those. If you take all the things he did, all things, he said we got to do two things. We have to love ourselves enough to love others, and we have to let go of anything in our life that is more important than me, than God, right? So what I was telling us on Friday night was, I really think that our addiction isn't to money. Our addiction's not to, having the best and better than everybody else. I don't see this as materialistic, but I do think we're addicted to shame. It's hard for us to let go of shame. It's hard for us to actually allow ourselves to love ourselves again. Because we can't do that, then it's more important than God is. It's kind of hard to understand, but it's not for me. So my paradigm is when I see someone who's addicted, they are full of toxic shame. And it's not that hard to figure out when you think about it. We have, again, the Adverse Childhood Experiences Survey, to me, is the greatest, simplest tool I can use with people in recovery to understand why their toxic shame is so high. And for us to score lower on the ACE, then look at our abandonment issues. Most people sitting in recovery have had those two things happen to them. Like I said, we've all had abandonment. We've all had trauma happen to us. But I think it'd be fair to say for a vast majority of us in recovery, it's been pretty, I would call mind-bogglingly, amazingly strong. When you figure that more people score 0 on the ACE than people who don't, and then when on Friday nights or Wednesday nights when we meet, or Sunday mornings when we meet, I would say more people have scored 6 or more on the ACE than have not. It just validates what I'm trying to say here. And so my paradigm is that if you're here or if you're online, you have a great deal of toxic shame in you because of your trauma and abandonment. Because I know that, another paradigm I have is that we live a lot of our lives with resentment. We carry resentment with us towards others, towards ourselves. And, the problem with shame is particularly let me back up. So there's shame and there's toxic shame. So you got shame is, I did something wrong, I feel terrible about it, and it's a good thing. I should feel terrible about it, then I won't do it again. That's what we want. God built that in us, But toxic shame is where we take our life and we look at it and we say, we are nothing. We are low lives. We deserve nothing. All the bad things I've done, all the bad things my family's done, all the things that have been done to me, things I've done to others, I deserve nothing. I live my life in shame. So the problem is if I live in shame, I'm not going to be happy for others when they're doing well. I'm not going to be happy for myself when I'm doing well, and I will do everything in my power to sabotage me from doing well. And so we live with a lot of resentment. We live our life, I say that resentment, toxic shame and resentment are just powerful drugs of choice. When I'm feeling resentful, then I'm turning against me, which creates depression, anxiety, all those things. Think about for us out here who are, and again, let me make sure, I talk about substances, compulsive behaviors, and people. Those are addictions. I hope you all realize, and most of you know this, you're not just one of those. We usually got 2 or 3 of the 3, right? We're not just one of them, right? So I'm addicted to compulsive behaviors. I cannot get off my screen. I got to be on this thing all the time. And I put something out there, I can't wait to see how many likes I get or how many people looked at it. But then while I'm there, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there, I'm going to look at other people and see how wonderfully they're doing so I can attack myself even better. So I can go out there and find people who are doing well, and I can look at how bad I'm doing, and there I feel better about myself. That's what we do. We live with that resentment. So, I always love this definition of resentment again, is I drink the poison and expect the other person to die. That's resentment at its best. We're out there living our lives, we're home. We don't even tell them that we don't like them. We don't even tell them we resent them. We're not going to tell them, but we live it. And what does that do? It comes back to me. And then guess what? Resentment, just like cocaine. So I got a little resentment in me. Now I need a little more resentment because that high is not enough. I got to keep getting more resentments. And then, of course, the more resentment I have, the more I screw up my life, and the more I destroy it, and more of the mess I have. So I think so my paradigms are, as I keep lost my talk here for a minute. So then because I live with resentments, I live with toxic shame, I live with resentment. So think of over here is wounded self, and over here is true self, right? So this is what we want, this is what we don't want. So wounded self says, if you really got to know me, you would not like me. You would find me despicable. You would find me you wouldn't want to be around me. Trust me. Well, because of that, I believe that I am this low life, loathsome person, then that also means I don't value myself, so I don't know how to set boundaries, so I don't know how to say no. So all I can do is live my life either over-living it or not doing anything, or both at the same time. I may say I'm not going to try anything new because I'll screw it up and I won't be perfect in the first moment, but I'm going to go drink excessively, right? So with wounded self, we know we're worthless, nobody would like us, nobody would love us, we don't love us, including God. And so then we also because of that, we don't see ourselves as worthy, and we do all that stuff we do. Well, then we also say then that nobody can meet my needs. There's nobody out there. Everybody's all messed up. They're out to get you. I'm my own person. I'm the only one who can do this. And thus our addictions become our master, right? So that's over here. That's wounded self. Over here's true self. If you really get to know me, you'd like me. You would value me. You would love me. I am lovable. Now, sure, I got things to work on. I don't have to be perfect. But, yeah, I'm a good and decent person. If you really get to know me, you'd really like me. Well, because of that, I see myself as worthy, and so I can tell people no, and they'll still love me. I don't have to go out and do all these crazy living things. And you know what? I can try new things. I can live my life. I can try to make it better. I can enjoy life. I can have some fun in it. And people can meet my needs if I tell them what I need. People can do that. And I understand the difference between healthy people and unhealthy people. And then with that, I can focus on God and His love, and I can accept it, and I can move my life forward. So, I don't know anybody over here. I don't know anybody over here, but I know people precariously close to over here, right? So our job is to move forward, to try to get ourselves more over here to the true self side, to really accept the fact that God loves me, if we understand who God is, right? And it's okay for us to make mistakes. It's okay for us to have a purpose. It's okay for us to enjoy life. Because over here, we're saying you can't enjoy life. Everybody's out to get you. You just got to survive, right? So we have to change our paradigm. The Switch watchmakers arrogantly watched the Japanese at this expo go, nobody's going to want a watch run by batteries. Ain't going to happen. Oh, yeah? Well, guess what? Look at your watch. I'm pretty sure it's got a battery in it somewhere. It destroyed them because they were unwilling to change or to see what the future. So for us in our paradigm of addiction is nothing good's going to happen. I don't know what the future brings, but it's not going to be good. I don't deserve to do well. I will screw it up anyway if I do something right. Nobody loves me. You hear the paradigm. And that's what we're really about, is trying to shift paradigms. One of my favorite movies is The Outlaw Josie Wales. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Anyway, there's bounties out on him. And so this bounty hunter steps out, and they realize, what's happening here. And Josie Wales tells the guy, he says, dying ain't no way to make a living, boy. But doesn't that fit for us in addiction? That's what we're doing. We're dying. We're killing ourselves every day because we hate ourselves. We loathe ourselves. We hide. We're cheating. We're using. We're acting out. We're trying to control people. So lying, hiding, cheating, using, acting out, and controlling people ain't no way to make a living, boy. And we don't have to be there. It's our paradigm that keeps us locked down. We're the Swiss watchmakers. We're the ones saying, nobody's going to use a battery. We're saying, no, you can't. I can't get past this. I can't recover. I can't quit using. I don't want anybody to get to know me. I don't want anybody to get to see who I really am, because you're not going to like me. You're going to hate me, actually. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep using these drugs and alcohol, or I'm going to keep getting on my screen 7 hours a day and justify how awful I am, because that's what we do. Or I'm going to go out and, see if I can get into another bad relationship just to make sure I realize how awful I am. We have to break the paradigm. Think about it. I don't go out and look at Facebook much, but I do see, this journal I just love is called Computers and Human Behavior. It's such a great one. But they showed research that the average selfie put on Facebook is taken 3.4 times. Yeah, I admit that's pretty funny. Because what is our goal of selfie? To look like it's spontaneous, but it's not. We're posed. We do it different angles. We go over here. There's even people out there that tell you how to take pictures the right way to make you look even better on Facebook. 73% of all content on Facebook is positive. So I'm not out there putting, my life's terrible, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I hate life, I'm addicted. That's all we're doing. Most are like, look at me, happy today, right? So, which I'm not judging the amount of positive on there, but I do know this. For us that are addicted and we loathe ourselves, I know screen time is a great place to go. Make sure that we despise and hate ourselves even more. If I could wave that magic wand on people, I would get everybody off their phones for 10 days just to see the reset a little bit, reboot who we are. Or everybody but me, of course. I still need to use my phone, right? So we have to figure out, we have to change our paradigm. I've had people say to me, well, they're in a great deal of pain. They're miserable. They're acting out, in jail, out of jail, all this stuff. Online for 7 hours and just broken and sad and looking at themselves and thinking suicidal thoughts, anxiety levels 9 out of 10, depression 9 out of 10. It's because we're in so much pain and we don't value ourselves enough, so we can't do anything about it. But think of it this way. This is Philip Yancey's quote here. He goes, pain is God's megaphone to you. It's his megaphone of telling you, I love you. And the pain is there to hopefully get you to get better. So the great quote is, pain is a class we all need to take, but no one wants to attend. I think it'd be fair to say that we all, for us in recovery, we're in so much pain now. It's like people will say, well, I'm afraid I don't want to change because I don't know what's going to happen. I go, well, it's not like you're doing cartwheels now. It's not like life's all that good now. Why not try something? So if I could take that one hitch on the head, the new paradigm would be that God created you and loves you. And God is a God of love. That would be my first paradigm. You would stop loathing yourself and you would start loving yourself. You would stop hiding. You would stop hiding behind stuff like screens, substances, people. And I would start saying things like, you know what? It's okay for me to do okay. I'm not so bad. It's okay for me to be okay. Like I say, I always love that about when people loathe themselves. If someone says to you, you know what? You're not so bad. They can't maintain eye contact. I do it all the time just to annoy people. I go, you're not so bad. And they go, like, and they look away. It's just too painful. But it is okay. You don't have to be perfect. The new paradigm is you don't have to be perfect, but you're not so bad. And then you get to learn to live with limits. You can't be on your screen time 7 hours a day. It doesn't work. I hate to break it to you, but it doesn't. You can't be out there on your 33rd broken relationship and expect it to work this time when you continue to do the same things you're doing. You can't keep using substances if that's destroying you. So I always love that one movie, 28 Days, when the actor goes, it was Morgan Freeman, he's the alcohol counselor, and he goes, you know what the word addicts hate the most? What's the one word addicts hate the most? And of course, the guy is Michael Keaton he was a good addict in this show. He goes, no, I don't know what and he goes, no, addicts hate the word no. No, you can't use like you have been. No, you have to get off your screen. No, you can't keep living with this self-loathing of you. You got to set boundaries. You got to trust yourself. The word no is terrible because we don't want to hear about it. We don't want to have to sit down and behave and not to be addicted. So what would a rich, full, meaningful life profile look like if you're creating a Facebook and you were truly rich, full, meaningful life? What would you say? Something for you to think about. The big thing for us to hear, though, is to think about what's a glimpse of rich, full, meaningful life look like? I have some purpose in my life. I don't hate myself all the time. I don't despise everybody around me all the time. Maybe that's our step. To get from here, I always kid about if I could just be in a true self mode 51% of the time, I'd be happy. Because it's so easy to go backwards and judge myself and think of the things I've done to hurt myself and hurt other people and the things that I'm not doing, I could be doing, and all blah, 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 blah. But the fact is, I'm not so bad. Neither are you. I've got purpose in my life. I got a good family in my life. I've got some things going for me, but I need to enjoy it. That's my problem is. I have a hard time enjoying success. But God loves us. That's really all I can say to you. God loves us. And so I would tell you again, find ways to live with gratitude. Find healthy people in your life. Don't hide. Don't isolate. And just think about it again, about how much toxic shame and resentment drives your life, because it's not the way to go. And you're on here listening to this. I hope that means that you're either on your journey or you want to be on the journey, or it's one of your family members. Find ways to live with gratitude. Find ways to see that there is good in your life. Somehow, for a moment, just think about God created you and loves you. That's my paradigm. So I hope it's yours too. All right, so we always close with a prayer of serenity. And if you ever need to talk to me, please feel free to call me at 804-746-5081. You can always email me at csimpson@wgva.church. Those are both on our website. We meet on Fridays at 6:30 and Wednesdays at 6:30, and then, of course, Sunday mornings at 9:30, and then, of course, here at 11:15 on Sundays. So anyway, I appreciate all of you. I am grateful. My gratitude is always that God has allowed me to be in the world of recovery. I don't think there are many people greater than people in recovery. It's one of the few places in human behavior that you actually can see real outcomes. There's a lot of frustration in it. But come to NorthStar. We're safe. We're not going to preach to you. We're not going to tell you what to do, but we will be there to support you. So maybe we can overcome some of this loathing that we have. And we can change our paradigm to a rich, full, meaningful life. It's not so bad, guys. You can have it. So let's close with a prayer of serenity. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as a pathway to peace. Taking, as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that Jesus will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. Amen. Have a good week, everyone. Thanks for joining.